the AI.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the AI Best Business Show. Today on the show, I have with me Mohammed Al-Shabrawi. He's the founder of Sympl. It's a fintech startup, buy now, pay later. We will talk more about what Sympl is. Who is Mohammed? Where did he start? Mohammed, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ahmed. Happy to be with you.
Mohammed, I was doing some research before the podcast, and I noticed you were a student of architecture and urban design in Cairo University, and now you're working in fintech. How did this transformation happen?
It's a long story, but let me just start it by disclosing that I hold the Bachelor of Engineering in Urban Design and Landscape, but I have never worked with it. Even since university time, all my internships were commercial internships between sales and marketing across different industries. So I have never worked with my engineering certificate
okay. Well,
so far, yeah.
Okay. And how did you jump into fintech? Like, what took you to the fintech world?
Sure. Well, I started my career with a lot of let's say commercial companies, mainly multinational across several industries. So I started with telecom, whether telecom operators or mobile handsets manufacturers. And then I moved into the automotive business. And then from the automotive business, I moved into what they call turnaround management for the telecom industry or telecom operators, where we used to manage offshore operators. And then by early 2007, I joined the banking industry here in Egypt, the retail banking industry specifically, with a bank that was launching its services to the Egyptian market. So I was part of the launch team. And then I stayed in this banking career around 13 years, maybe something between that, where I circled between two banks. Both of them are regional, serving several countries in the region. So part of my activities were in Egypt. Other parts of my activities and my role was in the UAE. And then by I guess early 2017, I joined EFG Hermes, which is one of the largest regional investment banks here in the region, with the task of establishing a B2C platform, lending platform. At that time, the term buy now, pay later was not that common. Also, the term consumer finance was not common. The only common thing that the market knew at that time was sales by installments or installment sales. This is how they used to call it, yeah. And then the journey started with this track.
Okay, so you went to EFG Finance, Hermes, and then from there you started what's the term that's called buy now, pay later, as we know it now. And you started under the name of, was it Val-U, or what was the name of the company?
Yeah, yes. At the time I joined, there was no company, so there was no name.
Right.
But me and my fellow colleagues, we came out by late 2017 with the name and actually the official establishment of the company in terms of the legal documentation and so forth. And then we went to the market by early 2018.
Okay. And how was it? You started Val-U as a CEO? What was Val-U? Like, what did Val-U do? And then you jumped to Sympl. Why did you jump to Sympl? So I guess it's like two questions. What did Val-U do? And why did you jump to starting Sympl?
Well, okay, well, I didn't start Val-U as the CEO of Val-U.
Right.
Okay, so it was a homegrown company. So I started, me and my fellow colleagues, by drafting the business model bottoms up. So it took us like almost maybe just less than a year. It's like 9 months. Then we started testing the model in the market and the traction. At that time, I was responsible for the product design, or actually products development. And a big part of my role was actually structuring the company, putting the needed functions together, even the hiring part. By time the company grew, we built the traction, we educated the market of the service, the difference between a buy now, pay later, or a consumer finance company, and a credit card or a loan. It started picking up by mid of 2019. I see that this was one of the inflection points that we saw. And by mid of 2021, I took the decision of leaving the company and pursuing a new challenge. And you asked me why. So there are several reasons, but the main reason for me is that I felt that I have already achieved all the KPIs that I have set for myself within this company, given that it's built from 0 to 100. So this is number one. The rest of the work in Val-U, or even the responsibilities in Val-U, was like a day-to-day operations. Okay. Because within a journey of 4 to 5 years, we almost did everything that was not done in a market like Egypt. Okay. We were very disruptive, me and the team. We had a very, very good team, and we all worked in sync to disrupt the market. So every couple of months, you will find us launching something new, putting a new offer, onboarding a new merchant, doing a new activity. So I can claim that at that time we were really a market leader, where others used to follow, because we had the room, we had the empowerment from EFG Hermes to disrupt the market and to make a change.
Okay. What gaps did you see in the market? Like, what were problems in the consumer finance market that you saw that made you sure you wanted to start Sympl?
Okay, well, let me first start by the general gaps that were there for the consumer finance in general. The gaps was, as I told you, the challenge of educating the market. So the market was not educated. It is a bank low, or a low penetration market for banks. So banks are not popular in a country like Egypt. So we're like 100 million in population, or exceeding 100 million in population. And at that time, the penetration rate of banks were something between 9 to 10% out of this population. So yet people had a lot of needs when it comes to financing, whether for financing activities or for financing consumer goods and services. But they used to do this through direct financing from retailers who used to offer this on their own capacity, or through something what we call like a community lending, if you know the Raska model or the Jamaiya model. So people used to fund their needs through such model.
So basically, the Jamaiya model is basically where, let's say it's 10 people, who each one of them would put $100 every week, and about 10 weeks, someone would take it, and then they'll start again. Okay.
Yes. And actually at that time, I think this was the only financing way available for the people, is what they used to do in real life, because by late 2016, Egypt went through the first devaluation of its currency. And it
went from it went up to 16 for the dollar. What rate was it at first before
it was around £8. Okay, and then it moved up to 16, and actually more than 16, but let's say this is the official rate. But actually it went near to the 20 and 21 pounds at that time. Okay. Yeah. So for a lot of people, this had put a lot of pressure on their needs and their lifestyle needs mainly,
صح.
in everything, whether in products or even in services like education, travel, whatever. A lot of things have changed, but at the end, people cannot compromise on their lifestyle. So this is where the financing need really erupted. So the only challenge we had at that time, how to embed a fintech approach in the model, in the business model and the solution, just to make it more appealing for consumers in terms of user experience and user interface. Because previously, before we do this part of disruption in the market, some of the financial institutions and banks have did a few encounters in terms of mobile banking and online banking and things like that, and even payment apps.
Right.
But it was not working at that time. People, I guess, were a little bit, or felt a little bit insecure of doing monetary and financial transactions over a mobile app where they have to share their data and so forth. And that's why we try to do it as friendly as possible.
Okay.
We drafted the model, or actually we started the model from the turnaround time it took any individual or customer to apply for a credit card. So here in Egypt, from the time you apply to the time you receive the credit card, it was like around 21 days.
Oh, wow.
And our first objective was to turn this into 20 or 21 minutes using technology.
Okay. I mean, the information you're just giving, I'm really interested, especially in the Egyptian market. So I'm really curious to know more, because I know a lot of countries in the region, people in there don't want to use online payments, don't want to use online banks. They're still hesitant. Not a lot of people use cash. I spoke to Ismail Bargash from Morocco. He's launching a mobile payment app for grocery stores. And he told me that actually using online payment is more expensive than using cash. And some people don't want to do that. And that's why I'm more curious. And what you spoke about the market is really interesting, and what happened in the market. What is Sympl? What does Sympl do? And if you the more like what I have Sympl on my phone, take me through the full customer experience of what happens if I'm using Sympl as a customer.
Sure. Well, Sympl is actually, it's not, we do not consider it, me and my fellow founders, or co-founders, we do not consider it as a consumer finance tool. Okay. It's actually what we call a deferred payment tool. Okay. So the difference between both is that we do not acquire you as a customer and tell you have a certain credit limit that you can use. Okay. No, we tell you that every time you come and buy something that you can afford, we give you the option of deferring its payments for a very short period of time. So the concept itself, it evolved from a lot of, let's say, scenarios that we saw in the market. One of them, or let's say a lot of facts. So one of them, let's say that 80% of the purchase power in the market is controlled by 20% of the customers. So they move the market. These are the customers that have a repetitive purchase behavior, that have aspirations in life. They buy a lot of items on a recurring basis, mainly on monthly basis, whether it's fashion, whether it's subscriptions, whatever. They always spend money, okay? And given the fact that a country like Egypt and many other countries are usually impacted by what's going on in the world. So in times like the devaluations and recessions, this is the time where finance evolves and the need for finance evolves. So this is what we saw. We saw that people, yes, they have the money to buy their things, but this money would not bring them what they used to buy for a long time. So we need to help people to save their money and use a financing tool or a financing option where they can defer their payments at checkout, and then they can repay these payments with zero interest on very short period of time, that starts from 3 payments and up to 5 payments. The checkout is very easy. You don't have to register or do anything. All you need to do is choose Sympl as a payment option at any of our partners or retailers network. So we're available across a lot of big and well-known retailers, specifically in the fashion industry. We focus on the fashion industry.
Can you give me some examples of some names you partner with?
Yes, we have all the brands that you can relate to in the fashion. We have them. So we have, let's say, Old Navy, Gap, New Yorker, Gant, US Polo. So we have a lot of brands, Clark's, Aldo accessories, whatever, and even some retailers or actually female fashion retailers. We have a lot selling dresses like Lipsy London and BCB. We have a lot of merchants. And also we have a lot of service providers who provide like dental care, eye care, general health care, as well as travel services, education services. So we cover a wide array of products and services that we see are of recurring nature and are never budgeted for. So you never budget for treating your eyes, or you never budget for treating something in your teeth. You never budget for this. You never budget for buying, let's say, a new suit to attend your friend's wedding. These are things that happen along the year that you never budgeted for. And you have the money, you're capable of paying it, but why waste it on something that you never budgeted for when there is something that is called Sympl that can help you do this and repay with 0 interest? And this is actually where the name came from, or the ideology that the name was built on. Sympl is SYMPL, which is save your money, pay later. So this is the whole ideology.
So basically, and how do you make sure the consumer is paying the money? Like when they register with you, do you make sure they have the money in their bank account? How is it happening? How are you making sure they have the money?
This part we cover it by we avail the service only for people paying using their bank cards.
Okay.
So whenever the amount is available in the card, so I know that he can afford buying, let's say, this dress for 5,000 Egyptian pounds. And at this point of time, the system automatically displays the option or the plans, the available plans for this customer at this kind of the merchant. And then once the transaction is done, his card is already registered on our platform, where by each and every due date, we go and auto debit the card with the customer payment amount.
Okay. And so basically you're just doing online payments for now. So if I go to the store, I'm at a store location, I can't use Sympl to register to pay on the cash register, and it's only online payments. So
on the contrary, it's mostly offline or in store. And we have few online merchants. So if you go into the store, you'll find the point of sale that is having a Sympl as a payment method, and you use Sympl as a payment method while checking out.
I love that. Okay, because and I really love that, because usually when we hear about buy now pay later, like here in the US we have Klarna, we hear Affirm. It's all online payments.
Everything.
I've never went to a store and saw an Affirm checkout. So I think what you're doing is really new. So that's great.
Let me tell you why we're doing this, or why we focused on the in-store, because of two things. The first thing is penetrating the market and getting the right brand exposure. This only happens through in-store branding, if you're there and people are seeing you. So this is number one. Number two, because the fact that the online market in Egypt is not that big as countries like the US or Europe or even Australia. It's around like 18% penetration rate. So this percentage, you cannot build on it a sustainable business. So people here like to go out to malls, they like going shopping, picking up their clothes and trying them out and then paying for it. So we wanted to be part of this journey.
Okay. So on the only question here is, people have to still put in their information on Sympl, their bank information, connect Sympl to their bank account and everything. The only difference that's happening is they could use it in store instead of just using it online.
Yes, but actually, one more difference is that all the details you've mentioned, this happens as a post fact to the transaction. So you don't have to put your details to do a transaction. No, after doing the transaction, all the transaction details and data are reflected on the mobile application, where you receive a message telling you that your transaction is successful. And this is a link where you can go and log into the application to see your transaction and check your repayment dates and everything.
Okay, so as a consumer, I don't have to have my information on Sympl. So let's say I go inside the store, I have Sympl downloaded on my phone, I go in, I check out, and then after that I receive a link to fill out all my information. So
yeah, but you don't check out with your phone, you check out on the point of sale. We have built the experience, the customer experience on the point of sale itself, so that we don't make a lot of difference on the normal card checkout experience.
Okay.
And then, as I tell you, it's a post-fact action where you get a message and download the app. Once you download the app, you find your card registered on the application. You find your phone number registered on the application. We only request some few data points furthermore to add to, which is what's your gender, what's your date of birth. If you want to correct your name, because all cards have the names like two names, mainly first and last or first and middle. So if you want to put your full name, you can edit your full name, things like that.
Okay, so just so I'm drawing the picture for anyone who's listening and for myself. So basically, I have my own card, my own debit card, which is registered to the bank. I use it on the point of sales. The point of sales is registered with Sympl. So when I pay with my card, my information from the bank already goes to Sympl. And and then the transaction, and then I could do deferred payments. Great. So that's one part, the consumer. Now, if I'm a merchant, or basically I'm a store, I'm let's say Aldo, I'm Nike, what do I benefit from this?
Well, you benefit two main things. The first one is you're giving in-store financing option. So you don't need this customer to be registered at any certain company to be able to enjoy financing option. So this is number one. So this ensures the closure of the transaction or the success of the sales transaction in general. Okay. The second point, which is most important point, is that by the time the customer finishes his transaction, you know that he's already leaving your store having his money in his pocket. He did not spend any amount of money from his funds, from his own funds. He bought this item financed by Sympl. So he still have the product amount in his pocket, where you have the opportunity either to cross-sell on him or to upsell on him. So this is a very important information for any merchant to know. How much money do you have in your pocket? Because usually when you enter a store and buy something, before this action and after this action, the merchant does not know your purchase power. He does not know that you came, before going to him, you went to another store and bought something with 10,000 pounds, or even after leaving him, you went to another store and bought something for 5,000 pounds. He does not know this information.
Okay. So my question would be, are you sharing data with stores about the consumer power or no?
And let's say it's not the data, but we share analytics. So we provide each and every of our partners with an analytical deck that gives them a lot of indication about the type of customers they are having in store. Starting from the gender, from the geographical coverage. Are those people coming for you from the west side or from the east side? The age group they are focusing on. even sometimes we tell them the carriers. So we tell them, do you know that most of the people who are buying from your stores are Vodafone customers? They are so and sometimes we provide them with some banking data. So we tell them that most of the customers using your products or buying your products are from National Bank of Egypt.
Okay.
So these informations are very important to merchants on a strategic level, because at any point of time they would like to consider a big partner for a certain joint campaign, joint activity, joint promo. They know where to go to.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Two questions here. When the transaction happens, I know the customer is paying through deferred payments, but is Sympl paying them right out? So let's say I pay at night at Aldo, let's say. Does Sympl pay Aldo right away? So let's say I buy something for 2,000 Egyptian pound. Does Sympl pay the 2,000 Egyptian pound right away to Aldo and then takes deferred payment from the customer, the consumer?
Yes, yes. In short, yes, but definitely it depends on the payment terms with our partner. So it has a lot of variables and differences between one partner and another, and the scale of business and the volume of finance transactions. So, but yes, in short, yes, we pay on behalf of the customer to the merchant, and then we collect from the customer or the end user.
Okay. I love that. A second question, because you were mentioning that you share some of the are they a customer of Vodafone? How much is their consumer power inside the store? Do you share this right away when they're doing the transaction, or how does this get shared?
No, this comes on like monthly or quarterly basis. So we do a business review with each and every retailer, and we tell them the progress. How did we progress with him? How did we contribute to increasing their sales? And then we start sharing with them some analytics to build for the way forward. So if we want to do something together, if we want to do a sort of a tri-party agreement, I bring a telecom operator with the merchant and with the bank, just for the benefit of the customer. At the end, knowing more about your customer, it makes you able to give him more or to give her more.
Okay, I love that. How do you make money at Sympl?
Well, we have three main revenue streamlines. Let's say two of them are direct revenue streamlines and one of them is indirect. The two direct ones, one of them is the rebate we get from merchants. So we get a certain rebate, a certain percentage on each transaction. This is one part. And the second part is we take a service fee from the end user at checkout. And this service fee is totally dependent on the plan he chose. So each plan has a certain service fee, but at the end it's a very let's say convenient, and when you compare it to the service and the instant decisioning of a financing option in store, it's worth paying the service fee. So these are the two direct revenue streamlines, and then we have a very minimal streamline, which is the indirect revenue streamline, which is the turnover of the money from the time we do the transaction, or the customer does the transaction, and the time we reconcile and settle with the partner.
Okay, I see. What do you do at Sympl day to day? And here I have a bunch of questions, like what skills do you bring to the game, and what skills do your co-founders bring to Sympl, and what stuff did you have to give up, like just in general, or let's take them one by one. How do you run Sympl day to day?
Well, my daily job is mainly making sure that the teams are working in sync together. This is number one. Number two, that there are no problems with partners and no challenges with the partners. This is number two. Number three, that we're liquid and we have no issues when it comes to cash flow or with our bank transfers, because we do transfers on daily basis. So these are my main verticals that I
Okay.
work on daily basis. And the fifth one is getting a little bit involved in the strategic direction in the company. So every day I review the reports, how we did this day, and then I start asking the question, why this day was better than yesterday, or why was it worse? And we start relating this to market conditions, to certain events, to maybe certain regulations by some banks or central bank, or even financial regulatory authority, or even the government. So one of the let's say the regulations that happened lately that impacted the market hugely is the regulations related to the importation of foreign goods. So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. I guess I'm gonna come back to regulations. Let me just ask a couple of questions before that. So you have co-founders with you, that's right. What skills did each of you bring to the table? Like, what did Muhammad bring, and what did other co-founders bring to the table?
Well, I have two co-founders. One of them is a beautiful lady, which is Yasmin, and the other co-founder is Karim. So Yasmin is mainly responsible for the business growth and commercial deals and partnerships. So this is her day-to-day job, her and her team as well. Karim is our CTO, or the Chief Technology Officer of the company, and he's responsible for building the whole platform in-house, maintaining the platform, scaling it by time. So this is his role.
How did you persuade employees to join a startup? Because I know in the region, people want a job that's secured at a bank or something that's secured, and you're a startup that's starting. How did you persuade your employees or people you hired to join Sympl?
Well, most of the people let me be very honest in this, just to answer you clearly. So most of the people for the past, let's say, 2 to 3 years are actually fascinated with the startup scene, with the fintech companies, with these success stories or even failure stories, but they want to be part of what's going all around the globe. This is one part. So I think this is like 50% of the job of convincing someone to join. The second is the model and the team behind the model, the founders. So Yasmin used to work with me in Val-U, and she was one of the first hires in Val-U. So she's one of the co-founders as well in Val-U. So she has a lot to give or to put on the table, and she has a very impressive track record when it comes to commercial deals and handling partners, handling end users. Karim was already working in a startup, in a B2B e-commerce platform. So it was not that hard to bring him, but actually Karim was fascinated by the model itself and the B2C model, because he has been working for a long time serving businesses. But he never went into retail and serving customers or serving mass. So this for him was a new challenge that he wanted to take on.
I have a question I'm always curious about. I've interviewed a couple of founders from the MENA region. I know what salary range is here in the US. What is the salary range in Egypt for a startup just like Sympl? Like, what do you pay? What are the salary range you pay your employees? If you can answer that. If not, I'm totally fine with this.
Well, I think for us in Sympl, it is quite relevant to the market. So we're not the kind of startup where we headhunt people by giving twice and or double and 3 times the salary. We don't do this. Actually, some of the people who moved to Sympl and took the decision have moved on a salary less than what they were cashing out through other employers. And we have a pool, or let's say an ESOP program for them. for the early joiners. Mainly this was for the early joiners, just to put some skin in the game. So we tell them, you're part of this company, we're building it from scratch, so you deserve to have some stake in the company.
Okay. Let me jump back to regulations. You're in the fintech system. I know the region especially is still figuring out regulatory systems they want to move in fintech, and especially Egypt. Because I wanted to launch a crowdfunding platform in Egypt before, equity crowdfunding platform, and I heard dealing with a central bank in Egypt is a little bit still hard. What are regulations you face and as Sympl?
Well, let me tell you that the scene have changed over the past 5 or 6 years. So whether it's the central bank or the Financial Regulatory Authority or the Supreme Council of Payments, or even the cabinet, the government itself, now Egypt is progressing in everything that's related to digital transformation, that is related to financial inclusion, that is related to cashless communities or cashless societies.
Okay.
So these are clear directions from the highest authority in the country.
Okay.
And we have seen a lot of initiatives taken by the Central Bank of Egypt and by the Financial Regulatory Authority that had massive turnarounds in the economy, in the on the society. So we've seen it now. The usage, if you ask any of the card schemes here in Egypt, like MasterCard or Visa, they can tell you that the issuance of cards and the usage of cards here in Egypt, compared to 6 to 7 years back, maybe like 300 to 400 times. So. So on that, I think, no, the regulations are going very well. Yes, they take time. I can say that, but they have the direction, they have the intent, and whenever they issue, or actually before issuing any regulation, and this is the part I like from Central Bank of Egypt and the Financial Regulatory Authority, that before issuing anything, they arrange for a lot of hearing sessions for people from the entrepreneurial world. So they bring a lot of entrepreneurs to sit with them. They bring a lot of expert matters. They do a lot of hearing sessions where they discuss how to move forward on a certain aspect and what's the benefit of using technology in advancing this area. So, yeah.
If you were in one of these hearings right now, what is one problem or one solution or one problem you would give the central bank or the authorities about the fintech space you see right now that needs to be solved?
Well, two of them. I see two of them. If I were in any one of those authorities, I would try to put some pressure on them. One of them is having or developing an open API. Whether this open API would be used for banking data, for telecom data, whatever it is, but we need an open API where companies like us and others can start from verifying customer details to verifying his monthly payments or usage or whatever he's doing. You have some data warehouse where you can go and say, yes, I know Ahmed and I know what he's paying every month, and he's regular on it. We need something like this. And
so basically kind of an API where any merchant or any startup that's in the fintech space could go and see details about each consumer. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes. 100%. Okay, so this is one part. The other part is putting pressure on the conventional financial institutions, which are namely the banks here, to cooperate with fintech companies. Together, we can do a lot of work and at a much faster pace. But when we're working in silos, each working on its own, it's taking a lot of time, and the results are not usually pleasant at the start. It takes a lot of heavy lifting until you reach a desired result that would benefit the end user.
Okay. I was in a conversation with someone from Egypt in the startup ecosystem, and they mentioned that, I don't know if that's true, some of the banks, even if you have, let's say, you have 30,000 Egyptian pounds in your bank account and you're using your card, you have a limit on how much you could use on your card. Is that still true, or has that changed?
Yes, it is true. But just to make it clear, some of those limits are related to the card scheme. So
Okay.
it's Visa or MasterCard. And some of those limits are related to the bank operations itself. And this is when it comes to dealing with the bank or withdrawing your money or depositing your money. So you cannot withdraw more than 50,000 EGP per day. So you have to differentiate between both. Like, let's say if I have a card that has, let's say, £500,000 in it, I cannot go and use the 500,000 pounds or £500,000 in, let's say, a full and tamaya diner. This will trigger a fraud alert at the card scheme, which is MasterCard or Visa, so the transaction will be stopped.
Okay, I see. I think I have a couple of questions. How did you find your first 10 customers at Sympl?
Well, by partnering with the big retailers. So we intended to associate ourselves with the big names, so that we start offering our proposition to the walk-in traffic of those names, which are really a decent population, as well as like our target segment, which I told you about earlier, the people who already have the purchase power. Okay,
so you mentioned something earlier. You 20% of the people in Egypt have used cards and are in the banking system. صح? Is that true? What is and you're targeting this 20% for now at Sympl?
Actually, it's not 20% now. It's more. But let me say, yes, I am targeting a portion of the card owners or the card holders. Yes.
Okay. What is your goal to get? Let's say now it's at 40%. What are your plans to get the rest 60% inside the banking system, or to use Sympl?
Well, it's not a clear goal for Sympl. But it's a consequence of Sympl. It's an indirect way of Sympl. So, and this is actually why I told you, if I had the authority, I would try to pressure banks to deal with companies like Sympl and others. Because for me, I see myself as a tech company, not a financing company. So what I need to do is go into a collaboration with the bank, where banks, they can offer their cards having the Sympl feature. So it's a deferred payment feature on their card, and the banks fund the transaction or finance the transaction while I operate the transaction, similarly to what's happening between MasterCard and Visa and the banks. So the banks, they issue the card, they are responsible for the transactions or funding the transactions. So they have the balance sheet, and MasterCard and Visa, they only operate the transaction from a tech and financial reconciliation perspective. I see this is our role whenever we advance in this market.
I love that. You raised money recently. You raised $6 million, right?
Yes, last December.
How was the raising money process? Because a lot of people who hear this podcast are founders, startups, and they could be going to raise money. How was the process? Did you go out and reach investors? Did you have relationship with investors? How did you secure the investment?
Well, I don't want to talk as if I understand it in full, but given my track record in the market and my expertise, I already have some relations.
And like my question is, when you're going and raising money, should you have a great product? Should you have a great team? what specifics should you have to go and raise money?
In my opinion, you should have a great team. This
Okay.
is number one. A team that can execute, that can pivot, that can attain success.
Okay.
So this is the kind I think investors look at the team at first, and then after the team, they start looking at the industry. What industry are you working in? Are you working in a marketplace industry, in a buy now pay later industry, in the edu tech, whatever industry? And then after, I'm telling you in ranking order, after the industry, they start looking on the market. So is Egypt a potential market for this industry that you have an interest in working in, or no, it's a very small market, it won't build the required or the needed traction. So these three things in ranking order are the main things that investors care about. And definitely, if all three are covered, then the unit economics of the model itself.
Okay.
Is it bringing money or not?
Do they care about bring money? So they care about traction. They want to see if you're getting money and revenue. Okay, perfect. Why did you choose Bico Capital and A15?
Well, okay, I'll tell you something. We started with A15 mainly because we had the relation with them, and they have a huge track record here in Egypt. This is the starting point, but mainly in choosing the venture capital or the partners to come with us, we were looking on venture capitals who had a huge track record, who faced both success and failures, or let's say exits and failures. So they had a couple of exits before. This is number two. And number three, we look at venture capitals who really provide assistance and guidance and mentorship and tools to help us build our business successfully. So we're not looking only to venture capitals that would sign us a check and that's it. No, we don't. And actually, we had a lot of them in the pipeline at the beginning last year. But whom we picked at the end were actually the three we knew that they would help us to put us on the right direction with the right pace. Okay,
I love that. I'm getting to my last questions. What if you weren't building Sympl right now? What startup would you go and build?
Well, that's a tricky question. I don't want to answer it because I'm intending in my, let's say, pension years, I will do another startup. So I don't want to give it away. But generally,
would it be in the fintech, or would you go to a different industry?
No, not necessarily the fintech, but generally, I like the retail and mass segments market. I like serving customers. This is something I think I do best. And I'm very fond of the usage of technology in facilitating the life of others. So it will be something around this.
I still have two more questions. We spoke about problems in the fintech system. I'm a person, I honestly love Egypt, and I pay close attention to Egypt as a startup ecosystem and as a country in whole. What problems in the startup ecosystem or we have in Egypt that you wish could be solved in the startup ecosystem, whether it's mentality, whether it's something in the structure, and where do you see Egypt in the next 5 years?
Well, okay. Within the startup ecosystem, I think it's still unorganized. So actually, when we say an ecosystem, we don't have an ecosystem. We have a lot of trials, a lot of people calling themselves as founders, a lot of people calling themselves as entrepreneurs. But I think in Egypt, the people who have track record in this industry or in the startup world are very few. Few of them are the credit worthy, where you can take their words for good.
Okay.
This is number one. Number two, I feel that I don't know whether it's the government or the private sector, but someone should take the role of uniting all the startups that is there, formulating something like a union or something, a committee, something that speaks on behalf of all startups available in the market and all the youngsters pursuing their dreams and having their own startups and succeeding in them.
Okay.
And this union or this committee should have frequent general meetings where they discuss everything, starting from global trends to domestic challenges to lobbying with the government, everything.
Okay.
We need someone to speak on our behalf. So I think this is something that is really needed here in Egypt.
So, and it's interesting you say that, because in my last episode with Ismail Bargaj, he mentioned that in the region we don't have a problem of money or investments. There's enough money out in the region, but there's not enough startups, and startups are not organized. And do you agree on that? Like, there's enough money on the system and there's enough investments, but not enough organized startups?
Yes, there are enough funds and money, yes, but the startups are not organized, and that's why I told you the whole ecosystem is completely unorganized.
Okay.
And we need a sort of directory or something that can unite the whole ecosystem together. And one more thing which I think is really important, that this body or this union, it should be capable of organizing the industry in terms of sectors. So I don't want a country who has 50 payment startups and one open banking startup. This is not right. So you need to organize this by, I don't know, by controlling the number of startups working in a certain sector, so that they don't fragment the market, they don't I don't know how to say it, but they don't waste the value
of the market.
Yes.
My last question here: if you were an investor today, which startups in Egypt would you go and invest in?
That's a difficult question. No, mainly in Egypt, I would invest in Egypt, but this is a difficult question. But there are a couple of startups that I would invest in. I don't know whether it's right to say the names or not.
Okay.
But I know my only decision to invest in these startups is because of the team, not because the industry they are working in or the market. But there are some amazing fellows out there doing great jobs, and I would be very comfortable and confident that whatever funds or investment I put with them, it's in safe hands and it will enable them to grow and bring me more returns for sure.
Okay. Amazing episode. I really learned a lot from you about Egypt, the fintech market, what you guys are doing at Sympl. Thank you for being here. Any last words you want to give out? Any plugs if someone wants to follow you? Are you hiring? Any last words you want to give out?
Yeah, sure. I would like to thank you first for having me today. I really enjoyed our discussion. This is number one. Number two, I would like all your audience and all your listeners just to follow Sympl on our Facebook page or Instagram or even LinkedIn. And they can also go to our website, which is www.sympl.ai, to know more about Sympl. And who's ever in your audience from Egypt and hasn't tried it yet, just try it and give us your feedback so that we can improve our service along the way. So this is what I wanted to say. And thank you again for having me. and looking forward to having another discussion with you in the near future, inshallah.
Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you, Ahmed.